Okay, so this is kind of like a two-part video. Over the years, I've learned a lot of things about Coreldraw and working with different programs. And I never really saw an easy way to know this stuff, so I'm going to show you some of the tips that I've learned over the years. And you really do need this to be able to use Coreldraw and also Silhouette Connect efficiently. So if starting out on this video, what I'm going to do is show you how to start Silhouette Connect from Coreldraw, which is the whole reason that you bought the plugin in the first place. And it is kind of handy either way. I mean, you can create different files and stuff and bring them into different programs. But first thing I want to show you, and this is probably the biggest question that I've had asked about Coreldraw and with buttons and macros and all kinds of stuff. So if we just select a square and we draw a square, and we select a circle and we draw a circle. Now, if we look up here, if we have nothing selected and we look up here in our workspace or where our buttons are, we right now have nothing available for alignment. And you can go, so first of all, you do have to have stuff selected for a lot of things to work in Coreldraw. Now, if we're looking at our workspace up here, and we're looking at it, and then I select these two, see how things change and populate and stuff like that. So what I like to have is I like to have my alignment tools up here. And most of the time, I've noticed that they're not there. So if we do this, make that area smaller, they go away like that. Okay, so all I did was I grabbed this vertical bar and I made that area smaller. Now, and then there's two arrows here, right here, two greater signs saying, hey, there's something here that you don't have available because it's hidden. So I do that. But the way I do this is, if I want to add something up here, what I do is I go to this gear right here called Options, and I'll go Customization, and I'm already at Commands. Now, I've been in here screwing around with this, so these are all in the top. But usually when you open this up, it's not, alignment and stuff is not here. You have to physically go and type align up in that box, then hit enter. Then it's going to do a search and show everything with a line in it. They were not there before. So it makes it kind of hard to find. But now if there's something in any of these commands that I want to show up there, all I do, say, well, let's just put in a line left. I don't have a line left up there because I normally, sometimes I have it up there, sometimes I don't. And then we got a line right below it. So if we want to add a line left, which if we look up here in the top, oh, it's already there. Okay, a line left is no, it's not. That's just align and distribute. So if we want to add a line left, we click on it, push in Alt, and we move it up there. Okay, now a line left is in there. If I want to add a line right, I can push Alt, or either way, push on a line right, left mouse click, hold in my Alt on the keyboard, and drag and drop it up there. Now I have to drag and drop it into that area. Okay, so now if I hit cancel out of here, it's going to take a minute to update. And this will show up too whenever you start Coreldraw again. Okay, now nothing's up here now because I don't have that stuff selected. I have nothing to align selected. So now I hit this, I click, I drag a box around it, hold down my left mouse button, drag a box around it. Both that square and that circle are highlighted. And if I look up here, let's see here. Now, why did, let's see. Now, I got a line, no, neither one of those took. You see that? So let's try that again. Why did they not take? Well, let's go do it again. Let's go Commands, Customization, or Options up there. We're going to hit Customization, Commands, and let's do this again. Align, we're going to put a line left, hold the Alt in, go up there and drop that. Okay, there it's in there. We're going to grab a line light, hold, or line right, hold the Alt in. We're going to drop it up there. Okay, now we know it's there. I'm going to hit OK. Oh, you know I hit cancel before. So you do need to hit OK here. All right, that makes sense. Sometimes you do the dumbest things when you're working with computers. Now see, if I go up here and I start a new page, just do that, start a new page, just draw 2 squares, go up here, grab my select them both, and there we go. That stuff is in there. And this first button here, if you highlight this, now I'm gonna change this Docker over here. Right now a line is coming up because I clicked on that. But over here, the only Docker I have up is, let's go here. And let's go toolbar. Well, actually it's Docker. And let's find objects. Okay, let's find objects because that's a good one when you're keeping track of your layers to have available. So we only need 2, but any of them you want to put in there in your Dockers, you can just add. I like to have text in there a lot. Let's see, where's our text at? Actually, properties is a good one too, because that's where you can add stuff to text. Here's text. All right, there's text. So we added that one. Let's go Dockers and let's put properties in there too. Okay, so properties is highlighted right now. So if I were to highlight these 2 objects, you see outline or properties is over here on my Docker. If I go here, and sometimes you have to double click on it. So I clicked once, then I clicked again, and now that's highlighted. Now I have this different align and distribute boxes over here that give me more scenarios than just my buttons that I added up here. Okay, so that's very important to maybe watch that 2 or 3 times until you figure out exactly what I tried to explain to you and tell you there. Okay, so the next thing, this main video part here. Now I love helping people with Coreldraw because I've been using it since it was invented. So I've had a lot of hours learning Coreldraw, and I forget stuff too if I'm working on different projects. I've worked on projects that the longest project, and I really can't tell you what it was, but it did take me probably about 6 months to complete. So when you're working with Coreldraw that much every day, you learn a lot of these things, but as you get older and stuff, you do forget them if you don't use them every day. So the next thing we're going to go over is we're trying to use Silhouette Connect from Coreldraw. Now I've already done all the installs and everything that you did from downloading Silhouette Connect. And what I was going to show people here is sometimes really when you add these GMSs and plugins and stuff to these different programs, all you're really doing is adding a macro. And there's a lot of programs that I use like GraphTech and all kinds of different plotters that use the same stuff from Coreldraw and Adobe Illustrator. Now, you can run all this same stuff. For some reason, if your launch isn't working or you can't figure out how to do it, you can actually click on the green arrow here, and then in your macros down here, you can search through these. And all you would look for is your Silhouette Connect, okay? You would just click on Silhouette Connect. And you'll see there's 2 modules available. The first module is just your regular export to Silhouette Connect, which like if we were wanting to cut these 2 squares in Silhouette Connect as a print and cut, we would just print them to whatever printer you're using, and then we would cut those. Well, it wouldn't really work right because we haven't added the registration marks. And if you continue to watch this video, it'll tell you. So the first thing you need to do is click on registration marks, run that, and then you export to Silhouette Connect, okay? But one of the main things that I'm trying to tell you in these 2 little lessons before the actual lesson you're going to get on Silhouette Connect is sometimes when you open Coreldraw, that launch is not showing up. I can see my macro arrow here to run scripts and macros, but I don't see any launch button. And why is that? Well, if we look up here next to our options button, we see these two greater than signs or right arrows. Now, I can grab that vertical line, left mouse click on it, and move it over, and there's that launch button. It was just hidden behind there. So if you move that vertical line next to your options gear there, then you get the launch button, okay? And what this launch button does is it kind of just makes that stuff a little easier. Now see, these are just the Corel wizards and stuff, macros that come in there. But here's those two silhouette things again. And these are the ones we want to pay attention to. So if for some reason you can't get your launch button to work, you can always use that green arrow and choose them that way. And then what I was going to tell you is, so the first thing you have to do, and you'll learn this by watching the video, is you got to add the registration marks to, and I just clicked on add registration marks. And this is what this whole video is about, because those registration marks are so important, because that's what actually tells your cameo cutter or whatever kind of cutter you're using. Now this is off the style, so we just click on the top one for the cameo cutters, hit OK, and now it's going to populate the did I not hit OK? Now it's going to populate this page with the registration marks here. And continue to watch the video though, because there are some other things that you can learn about it. But I just wanted to take these two things, and these two instances or shortcuts of what I've just shown you is something really good to remember when you continue to use Coreldraw on how it works, and it'll save you a lot of time in the future. Hi everyone. I've spent quite a bit of time figuring this out with Coreldraw and Silhouette software, which in this we have a Cameo 4 Pro that we use to cut. And of course I do this on a commercial level, and of course, well, I don't use the Cameo machines. I have a lot of other big large format printers and large format cutters and stuff, but I think these little cutters are really great that, you know, people, hobbyists and stuff, can get involved in the industry and learn how to use this kind of stuff. But anyways, what I want to do is I want to show you, it doesn't work quite the same way. I have other programs that have plugins to go into Coreldraw, like, you know, GraphTech and a bunch of different plotters. And I do the same thing, but for some reason this doesn't work the same way. But it is easy to work, and there's kind of a little workaround. But it is kind of important for you to know you can do this through Adobe Illustrator or Coreldraw. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just, well, I already have a new page started here, and I'm going to show you how this works. So if I just draw a square, and what I want to do now is send it to the Cameo to cut it. So I'm going to hit this. Now, normally I have a button up here that would say Silhouette or Cameo and other programs that I use. But in this instance of Coreldraw working with this, I'm going to hit this green arrow up here. That opens my macros. You might have to turn that on up there too. So, you know, so you can run your macros right from there. So what I do is I click here and I go down and I find Silhouette. When I find Silhouette here, it brings up two options. The first one, the Module 1 Export, and the second one is Module 1 Reg Marks. So that stands for registration marks. Okay, so I don't have any registration marks on this to cut it. So what I want to do then is I want to add, first thing I want to do is add registration marks. So I'll grab that Silhouette, and I don't want to do export the first one because that would export it without registration marks, and I could cut it, like I could just send this to the cutter, but I want to have registration marks because I want to print and then cut. Okay, so once I click on that, it brings up this little screen right here that says registration marks. Now the common ones for the Cameo is just the top one right here. So I clicked OK. And you can set different things about the registration marks here, but we're just going to hit OK on here. Now it put these registration marks in for us. Okay, so now we could send this to the printer, print our, our color, our picture, whatever we're going to print in here. And this would be our cut line, this outer square. So what happens though, let's go ahead and try that. So let's, by what I just told you, how it works. And I'm going to show you why in this situation it doesn't work, but how I can make it work. So I'm going to go back to that silhouette there. Now I'm not going to choose the second one like I did before. I'm going to choose the first one, export, module 1 export. Okay, so we're going to click run. Now it's going to bring up that little window again, Silhouette Connect. I'll move it over here because it always seems to come up over there. Okay, so now looking at this, here's our sheet that we're going to feed to the cutter. If we hit send over here, this is where we would send it to the cutter. Now this cutter can hook up USB or Bluetooth. I'll be honest with you, I have a lot of problems with the Bluetooth hooking up, and I don't know if it's something to do with the computers we use or what it is, or interference, but it can hook up and print and cut Bluetooth, a few times or something, and then it can't find itself again. So I just plug in an actual USB-A or USB-C to the USB, the actual plug-in on the printer itself. So you have a USB cable running to it. But if we go back to setup here on the page setup, and I look at this, none of the things that I wanted to bring in are brought in. And I think Silhouette automatically shows you this for the fact that it doesn't want you to print in these registration markings there. So I'm going to close this again because nothing I want to do came out right. And I'll show you why. Now, if we try to highlight this stuff, it'll highlight the square, but that's all it'll do. So let's try to see what that does with just the square highlighted. Let's see if it brings it into there. So first module selected. Let's see if it brings that square in without the registration marks. Because you got to print those, you got to read the registration marks. First of all, you have to print the registration marks. Okay, so let's see. Even though I had the square selected, it didn't work again. Okay, so let's hide that. Okay, or turn it off there. So now what I've figured out, and it's how I've been doing it, is if I go over here on the right side and I unlock these registration marks, and what that means is if I lock it back again, I cannot select this registration mark. Okay, I can select my square that I drew, but I can't select the registration marks. So I'm going to unlock them. I'm going to unlock both of them. And I'm not even sure. Let's see what that is. Okay, that's that one. If I hide it. Yeah, I'm not even sure what this top one is. I think it's just saying it's the registration mark layer or something. I'm not really sure. But I've unlocked both of those. And let's see here what it does. It just shows the registration marks. So I'm not sure if you have to unlock this top one or not. I've just been unlocking both of them. But now in other situations too, where you're not supposed to print, you're not supposed to move these squares or anything over here, because there's an actual line. Like if you put a square, let me put a square here on this line. So I think it's the middle of that square. So see how that lines up there? That's your actual print area where you could print. And I can move this out. See on the bottom here, I'm not quite out that far. So I can move this out. Well, it's snapping too. But anyways, you get the idea that anything you want to print or cut, you'd want to be inside this square. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's get rid of that square because I don't want to send that to the cutter. But now that I've unlocked my registration marks over here, now if I go back to Silhouette through that macro, and now I want to go to I don't want to create registration marks because I've already created my registration marks. I want to export. So I'm going to hit export. Now my registration marks should show up, and also whatever I've got on the page in Coreldraw should show up. Okay, and it didn't. So why didn't it show up? Well, let's try one other thing. Let's hit exit. Now I've unlocked my registration marks. Oh, you know what? This one I have hidden here. Let's unhide that. See how I had the eyeball X'd out? Now let's see if this works. Let's just see. Because sometimes you have to try different things when you're trying to get different things to work with different programs. We're going to go 1 here. And I think this is going to work. But if not, we got one other thing we can try. Waiting for that to start up. Does take a second. And lo and behold, it still didn't work. Okay, so there we go. Let's try the last thing that I know what to do. And now that we have these layers unlocked and we can see them, the eyeball's on, I'm going to go ahead and select everything. Okay, so I have everything selected. And then I'm going to go to my macro, pull up my silhouette. I'm going to go to the export module and I'm going to hit run. Silhouette Connect is starting up. All right, so there we go. Move that back over here. You can tell now that's what we wanted. Now we're going to print from Coreldraw, but this is what we got to put in the silhouette. We have to put, once we print it with the registration marks, then Silhouette will know to read those registration marks. And I can close this because that's, you know, we would just hit send on here. Our cutter would be hooked up and then we could just send it over. But what you should take out of this video and what we did, once we created the registration marks, I'll do it all over again. Let's go new. We got a whole blank page here. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and put our registration marks in. So to do that, we're going to grab Silhouette. Oops, I picked on a VBA. Silhouette. We're going to create the registration marks. So we're going to go module 1 reg marks. Hit OK. All right. Now, then we're going to tell it what kind of registration marks we want to create. We want to create the ones for the Cameo printer. If you have a different printer, you probably create different ones. It'll say on there which one to create. Okay. So now what we figured out, and if we draw our square, we know it has to be in this big square area. We can draw a square. We can go grab a circle, whatever we're putting in here. Okay? But what we learned, though, is that we have to be able to select this. And I can select my square and my circle, but I need to be able to send those registration marks also. So I'm going to go over here, and the eyeballs are on. If I turn the eyeballs off, those would go away. If I click back on, I turn the eyeball on. But I'm going to unlock these. And when I unlock them, that's going to allow me to be able to select the registration marks along with, why didn't we select here? Okay. I'm able to select my registration marks. And what I mean to be able to select this is you can select it and then you can move it. Okay. Now you don't want to move it because inside of here, there's a lot more going on. You see registration marks, but it's actually really telling Silhouette some information about where to cut. So to send that to the Silhouette cutter, we're going to select everything now that we have it all unlocked. Then we're going to go back up here and we're going to click on the macro end. We're going to click our Silhouette. And like I said, if you click on the registration marks, that's to create them. We've already created them. So we're going to click on the first module and we're going to run this, and that's what's going to send this to the Silhouette cutter. And as it starts up now, we should have our registration marks and we should have our square and our circle to be able to cut on the machine. And I just brought that over because it starts up on the other side of the computer. So, and it does tell you, it comes up with another screen that says if you want to edit, you need to close this and go back to Coreldraw and then resend it. But here's what we got. We got our registration marks to cut, and then we got our square and our circle that we're going to be cutting out. Now the registration marks aren't going to cut, but they're just going to tell the Cameo printer where these square and circles are, so they will cut. So that's how you, and you, if you've done the installation and you got an actual button up here on the top that says silhouette or cameo or whatever, then that's fine. It would still work the same way. So you could still, use my principles that I told you here. So anyways, like I said, I wouldn't be scared of getting a cameo and, getting involved with silhouette, because it works really good for the hobbyist. And then it allows you to learn things that actually go on in a print shop, and how print and cut actually works. My name's Rick, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you.